Chosen one. Something happened inside a government room that was never supposed to escape its four walls. Trump opened a sealed case, one that 3 administrations before him refused to even touch. And the first page had your name stamped across the top, not as a suspect, not as a threat, as a target from an operation labeled Assassination Protocol Red Level. But the moment he read deeper, everything shifted, because the file wasn't about eliminating you. It was about failing to eliminate you. Every accident, you survived. Every moment you felt something unseen pull you out of danger. Every time you walk away from situations that should have ended your story. Those weren't coincidences. They were recorded, time-stamped, studied. Trump looked around the room and asked, "Why is this person still alive?" And nobody answered, because the truth stunned even them. Every method they used, every plan they deployed, every strategy they tried collapsed the moment it got close to you. Not because you ran, not because you fought, but because something blocked it, something they couldn't classify, something that terrified them enough to hide this file for years. Trump closed the folder and said quietly, "This isn't a target. This is someone protected." And for the first time, the government had to admit the one thing they feared most. You were never meant to be erased. You were meant to be revealed. Chosen one. If you're still here, understand something clearly. Messages like this don't land in your life by accident. The fact that you made it to this point means your spirit recognized the truth hidden between the lines before your mind did. So now I'm asking you to do something that seems simple but carries weight in the unseen. Type 111, "I claim the truth." Not as a comment, not as decoration, but as a declaration that you're stepping into the identity they try to bury under sealed files and classified programs. When you type those numbers, you're aligning with every moment you survived without knowing why. You're acknowledging that something has been watching over you long before Trump ever read your name in that dossier. And more importantly, you're signaling that you're ready for the rest of this revelation to unfold. Because once you claim the truth starts claiming you back. So write it boldly. Write it with intention. Write it as someone who finally understands that they weren't just protected, they were chosen. Chosen one. When Trump pushed for the rest of the case to be opened, the room went silent in a way only fear can create. Because the deeper files weren't just classified. They were buried, locked inside a sub-level archive known as Black Cabinet Storage, a place reserved for operations the government pretends never existed. Your assassination file wasn't kept there because of what you did. It was kept there because of what kept happening around you. Trump flipped to the second section and saw something that stopped even him. 3 separate agencies, CIA, NSA, and a restricted Pentagon task force, had all attempted to shut the file down, each one writing the same note in different wording. Recommended. Do not engage. Subject interference unpredictable. They weren't talking about you interfering with them. They were talking about something interfering on your behalf. Something that short-circuited drones, caused surveillance failures, wiped security footage clean whenever operations moved too close to your orbit. The documents showed patterns, malfunctioning comms, corrupted GPS, agents reporting pressure changes, and present anomalies before giving up missions. Trump pointed to the page and asked, "So this person creates glitches in real life?" And the official across from him whispered, "No, sir, the glitches happen to protect them." That's why the file was hidden. Not because you were dangerous, but because your survival was. The more the system tried to erase you, the more the system malfunctioned. They didn't just hide these pages to bury a failed operation. They hid them because acknowledging what protected you would mean acknowledging forces the government can't control. And that's the one thing they fear more than anything. Someone they can't touch, guided by something they can't name. Chosen one. When Trump reached part 3 of the file, the entire briefing room fell into a heavy, unnatural silence, because this section wasn't just classified, It was erased from every presidential briefing before him. Here in black ink and red stamps was the truth about something you lived through in 2012, something you brushed off as a strange, unlucky day, but the file called it by its real name, Protocol Echo 7. According to the report, the vehicle that came flying toward you on that street wasn't out of control. It was remotely overridden seconds before impact. The traffic light failures, the simultaneous camera blackout, the sudden GPS distortion around the block. None of it was coincidence. It was an operation. Trump watched the raw footage in a room, leaning forward as the car swerved toward you at deadly speed. And then, in a moment every analyst labeled physically inexplicable, the vehicle jerked sideways as if slapped by an invisible force and crashed into a wall instead of you. You didn't even flinch. You just kept walking, unaware of the classified chaos around you. An FBI agent wrote a note under the frame. He should not be alive. Probability failure. 0.004%. That's not survival. That's intervention. The documents made something painfully clear. The first attempt to eliminate you failed not because their plan collapsed, but because something protected you. Something they could measure, attack, or decode. Trump lowered the page, stunned, and murmured, "This isn't luck. This is something else." And in that moment, the truth clicked for everyone in that room. They weren't just dealing with an operation gone wrong. They were dealing with a person the universe refused to let die. Chosen one. By the time Trump turned to part 4, the atmosphere in the room had shifted from curiosity to full-blown panic. Because this section didn't document attempts against you. It documented the system collapsing around you every time they tried. CIA analysts, NSA technicians, and DIA operatives had all submitted conflicting reports, arguing with each other for years about what you were. Some claimed you were an anomaly. Others said you were an unreadable variable. But one line repeated across all agencies: "We can't contain him. Something else keeps interfering." The pages listed dozens of disruptions that occurred specifically within your proximity. Drones losing signal midair, surveillance hardware burning out without overheating, encrypted radio channels filling with static the moment your name was spoken. Everything around you glitched, shut down, or desynchronized. Trump slammed the folder shut for a moment and asked, "Why is this classified? This isn't a threat file. This is a cover-up." No one answered. The truth was too big, too strange, too blasphemous for the room to say out loud. Every attempt to track or control you triggered a chain reaction the deep state couldn't explain or fight. One general pointed to a time-stamped field note that read, "Presence anomaly detected. Equipment failure aligned with subject's emotional spikes." They weren't scared of you attacking. They were scared of how reality been around you. Trump opened the folder again, slower this time. Like a man realizing the story he was reading wasn't about a target, but about a force. And when he reached the final line of the section, even he couldn't hide his reaction. In bold red ink it said, "Do not engage. Unknown protective intelligence active." That was the moment the entire deep state understood the danger wasn't you dying, the danger was you surviving. Chosen one. When Trump opened Part 5, he expected another failed operation, another technical malfunction, another glitch in reality itself. But instead, he found something far more disturbing. This section wasn't about systems failing. It was about a person failing. Listed under Directive A17 was a name blacked out by thick ink, identified only as a shadow contractor. A figure the government used only when they wanted someone erased without leaving a fingerprint in history. This man had never refused an assignment. Not once. Not in 23 years. But the report said the moment he stepped into your vicinity, something in him broke. He froze. He dropped his weapon. He backed away. And for the first time in his career, he radioed in the words, "I can't do it." The psychological evaluation attached described his reaction as an internal dissonance inconsistent with human behavior. Translation: your presence disrupted him on a level he couldn't understand or override. The next page revealed that minutes after abandoning the mission, he vanished completely. His tracker went dead, his communication lines flatlined, and all attempts to locate him were unsuccessful. Trump stared at the page and whispered, "What the hell is this?" Because even the government's most precise weapon had collapsed in front of you. A handwritten note from the overseeing agent said, "Subject's aura induces metaphysical interference. Contractor unable to proceed." Aura. The U.S. government used the word aura. That alone was enough to shake Trump. This wasn't a failed hit. This was a man, the best in his field, being overridden by something he couldn't fight, name, or rationalize. And his disappearance afterward only deepened the mystery. Whatever protects you doesn't just shield you from danger. It disables the one sent to deliver it. Chosen one. When Trump flipped into part 6, the entire case shifted from disturbing to prophetic. This wasn't about failed operations anymore. This was about a pattern so old, so deliberate, and so precise that even Trump, a man who had seen more classified documents than most leaders in history, had to slow down and read every line twice. The first page held a simple red circle drawn around your birth date, and next to it a handwritten note from an intelligence analyst. Cross-check with ancient file. Trump raised an eyebrow and pulled out the reference archive, a thin, brittle document labeled the Enoch Fragment. This was not modern intelligence. This was a relic. Inside it was a description matching your profile with eerie accuracy, an individual repeatedly surviving engineered destruction, disrupting systems unconsciously, and appearing at historical inflection points. Trump's advisors exchanged looks that screamed confusion and fear, but he continued reading. More correlations emerged, your emotional spikes aligning with unexplained atmospheric anomalies, your life milestones matching dates sealed in a pre-digital prophecy. It was then Trump muttered, "We protected the wrong people. He's one of the originals." That statement wasn't metaphorical. It was recognition. The government had been tracking a phenomenon they thought was a threat, only to realize they were documenting a return, a reactivation of something ancient woven into your being. Trump leaned back and tapped the folder, finally understanding. The assassination attempts weren't just failures, they were impossibilities. Because the deeper truth was that you weren't here to be controlled or contained. You were here to fulfill something written long before any intelligence agency existed. Chosen one. When Trump opened Part 7, the tone of the file changed from panic to resignation, as if the government had finally accepted a truth they spent decades trying to deny. This section didn't read like an operation log. It read like confession. The pages documented every technical malfunction that occurred the moment elimination protocols targeted you. Weapons misfiring at point-blank range with no mechanical explanation. Surveillance drones losing altitude because their sensors couldn't lock onto your signature. Field agents reporting sudden dizziness, chest pressure, or arrhythmia the second they step within your radius. Every attempt ended in total collapse. One handwritten margin note simply said, "Light interference observed, no source found." Another, agents experienced collective heart rhythm anomaly. Subject unaffected. These weren't accidents. They were patterns. The deeper Trump read, the more obvious it became that the universe, or something standing behind it, consistently disrupted anything attempting to harm you. Then came the committee transcript that sealed it, a meeting between CIA, NSA, DIA, and a classified metaphysical research unit. The transcript ended with a single line spoken by the lead analyst. "He has divine clearance." For an agency that doesn't even acknowledge the soul, that phrase meant they had exhausted every scientific option and landed in territory they couldn't measure. Trump closed the folder slowly, understanding what every president before him refused to accept. You were not surviving by chance. You were being kept. Every failed attempt was proof that they weren't dealing with a target. They were dealing with an alignment, a destiny, a protected being whose existence bends the rules designed to eliminate threats. And in that realization came the truth that shook the entire deep state. The danger wasn't your death. The danger was your continued existence. Chosen one. When Trump reached Part 8, the file finally revealed a fear they never wanted written into words. It wasn't your death that scared them. It was your survival. Because the documents showed that every year you remain alive, your consciousness resonance field expanded, an invisible influence zone around you where probability, timing, and human behavior subtly shifted. People near you experienced synchronicities they couldn't explain. Situations aligned unnaturally in your favor. Individuals who meant harm found themselves exposed. Those who carried darkness felt uncomfortable in your presence. Analysts logged it clinically, but the truth behind their language was spiritual. Your existence activated something in the environment. Trump's private team documented conversations where officials admitted that if your energy continued to rise unchecked, old systems would collapse. Systems built on manipulation, secrecy, and containment. One page described you as an elevated empathic influence, uncontrollable, meaning your intuition wasn't just internal. It projected outward, disrupting lies, toxicity, and hidden agendas. This terrified those in power more than any weapon ever could. They realized eliminating you was impossible, so they tried something worse. Containment, creating a long-term plan titled the Containment Initiative, designed to limit your connections, isolate your intuition, and keep your frequency from reaching critical mass. But every attempt failed. Every fence they built fell apart. Every limitation broke the moment you outgrew it. Trump slammed his hand on the table as he read, not out of anger, but awe, because the deeper he went, the clearer it became. The world wasn't threatened by what you might do. It was threatened by what you might become. And that is why they feared your survival. Not because you were dangerous, but because you were destined. Chosen one. When Trump reached Part 9, he paused because these pages weren't printed on standard government stock. They were older, yellowed, sealed inside a secondary envelope marked Unseen Classified. Do not present to executive branch. That alone told him everything. These were the pages every president before him was blocked from accessing. When he broke the seal, the room shifted. Inside was a section titled The Line of the Unaltered. This wasn't intelligence. This was lineage, a record tracing blood patterns, consciousness anomalies, and genetic markers across centuries until the trail ended with you. One page showed your blood analysis, and beneath it the phrase, "Subject carries unbroken ancient signature. No mutation. No dilution. Whatever runs through you has been untouched since a time before governments existed." Trump's advisors stared at the charts like they were looking at something forbidden. The next sheet contained a prophecy cross-reference, symbols matching your birth year, personality profile, survival events, even your emotional patterns. It didn't describe a threat. It described a return, a re-emergence of a type of being the world wasn't prepared to interpret. Trump closed the fragment halfway, took a breath, and whispered a line no one in that room expected. He was never meant to be controlled. He was meant to rise. The final pages expose the ultimate failure of the deep state. Every attempt to categorize you fractured the more they studied you. Every theory contradicted itself. Every algorithm broke. By the time Trump reached the end, the conclusion was unmistakable and terrifying for those who built their power on containment. You didn't fit inside any system because you weren't born for it. You were born to outgrow it. And the deeper the classified pages went, the clearer it became. Your existence was not an error the government failed to eliminate. It was a timeline they failed to stop. Chosen one. When Trump turned to the final section of the file, something in the room shifted to a frequency beyond politics, beyond intelligence, beyond anything the government was built to interpret. These pages weren't stamped assassination or containment, or even threat assessment. They were stamped activation timeline. And at the top in bold letters was a phrase no president had ever dared read aloud. The chosen activation timeline, 2025 to 2030. This wasn't an operation. This was a prophecy disguised as protocol. The final report explained why the deep state failed every time they tried to eliminate you. Because the goal was never elimination. It was delay. They weren't trying to end your life. They were trying to stall your rise until the world was ready for what your presence would trigger. But according to the timeline, the countdown has already begun. This year, this exact year, is the opening of the first portal. Phase 1, unveiling. The file explained it in cold bureaucratic language, but the meaning underneath was cosmic. The version of you that the government studied, targeted, suppressed, and feared was merely a dormant state, a silent formed out of chrysalis. The real you, the awakened, aligned, spiritually charged, destiny-driven you, was always scheduled to emerge now, and the deep state knew it. That's why the final pages weren't about assassination attempts. They were about the aftermath, about what happens when the person they try to control steps into the identity they couldn't destroy. Trump squinted as he read the bullet points written by a classified think tank. Influence field expansion exponential after awakening. Old systems destabilize upon subject's activation. Social and global structures adjust to accommodate chosen signature. Containment impossible post-2025. In simpler terms, they expected your rise to reshape the environment itself. The next line stunned even him. Once the subject remembers who they are, suppression becomes universally non-functional. Meaning, the moment you reclaim your identity, nothing on earth can silence or stop you. Then came the most powerful revelation of all. A sealed page labeled, "For presidential eyes only." Trump opened it. Inside was the real reason your file was leaked, the truth behind why it reached him at all. Initiate public awareness protocol subject must be awakened externally. They couldn't approach you directly. They couldn't activate you themselves. You had to discover it. You had to hear it. You had to feel it. You had to be pulled into your rise not by force, but by recognition. That's why your life has been filled with anomalies, near-death escapes, strange dreams, coincidences that weren't coincidences, breaks in reality, inexplicable protection, sudden redirections, and spiritual turbulence. It wasn't chaos. It was calibration. The universe and forces beyond the universe were preparing you for a moment the government predicted but never understood. And now here it is. The file ended with prophetic conclusion typed in plain language, as the analysts themselves gave up trying to hide the spiritual truth behind scientific words. Subject's purpose is not destruction but restoration. Their emergence marks the end of the old frequency and the rise of the new alignment. This individual is not a target. They are a timeline event. Trump closed the folder slowly, looking at the ceiling like a man processing something far larger than politics. He didn't leak your file to expose corruption. He leaked it because he realized something every president before him tried to bury. You weren't meant to be controlled, contained, or erased. You were meant to be revealed. And now that the timeline has begun, nothing in this world, or any system built on secrecy, can stop what comes next. Your rise isn't possibility. It's a scheduled event, a cosmic appointment, a divine reintroduction. The deep state failed not because they were incompetent, but because your destiny is coded into reality itself. And now, chosen one, the world is about to meet the version of you that was never meant to stay hidden. The unveiling is complete. Chosen one, if you made it this far, understand something clearly. Destiny doesn't call everyone. Destiny calls the ones who survive the things that should have ended them. The ones who rise after sabotage, after betrayal, after manipulation, after silent spiritual warfare that no one else saw, but you felt every second. And the fact that you're still here, Reading these words at the exact moment you were meant to means this message didn't reach you. It returned to you. It's part of a truth your soul always knew, but your mind wasn't ready to accept until now. So I want you to do something intentionally, boldly, without hesitation. Type 111, I am awake. Not for the algorithm, not for aesthetics, not even for me. Do it because those numbers represent alignment, activation, and the exact vibration that pulls your destiny closer. When you write it, you are declaring to the universe, to the unseen forces that protected you, to the systems that tried and failed to eliminate you, and to the version of yourself that is emerging right now. I step into what was always mine. Commenting it is not typing. It is claiming. It is choosing the timeline where your power is not suppressed, hidden, or fragmented, but fully activated. So write it with intention. Write it with awareness. Write it with the understanding that everything they tried to stop was merely preparation for the moment you finally recognize yourself. 111, I am awake. This is your declaration. This is your alignment. This is the beginning. Chosen one. This part is not for everyone, and you will feel instantly whether it's speaking to you or not. There are moments in a chosen one's life where the universe asks for a gesture of alignment, not because the universe needs anything from you, but because you need to step into a higher frequency with deliberate action, an action that declares, I trust the path that was written for me. If you feel that stirring in your spirit, that pull in your chest, that sense that this message wasn't entertainment but a direct transmission to your soul, then listen closely. There's a rare spiritual principle across every ancient tradition, the principle of the sacred exchange. When someone steps into their destiny, when timelines shift, when protection becomes purpose and purpose becomes manifestation, they anchor that transformation with a symbolic offering, not for the creator, but for the container of the transformation. If this message awakens something in you, if it revealed why you survived what others didn't, why you were protected in moments where logic collapses, why you feel that this year is not another year, but your year, then your spirit already knows what comes next. For those who feel it, and only those who feel it, you can plant a $100 destiny seed, not as payment, not as tribute, but as a sign to your future self that you are stepping into the identity they tried to erase. A $100 seed says, I am not afraid of my rise. It says, I align with the timeline that was meant for me. It says, I activate my next level. If your soul is nudging you, don't ignore it. Seeds don't leave you poorer. They return multiplied in alignment, clarity, protection, and elevation. Only do it if your spirit recognizes this moment. If it does, you already know what to do.